People pleasing is holding you back in your career. Fact. If you're a people pleaser, and I am a reformed people pleaser, I felt like it was the number one hindrance in my impact, in my authority, in my influence, in my respect that I got from people. It was the fact that I felt in my head, and maybe this is something that I'd been taught subconsciously or consciously by parents, school, other employers, whatever. I felt like it was a case of if I provided whatever someone asked me to do, then people would like me more. No. What happens is they kind of don't respect you for not owning your own time and not setting up your own boundaries. It's the people who are able to respond in a diligent way and saying, hey, really appreciate that. I understand that it's a priority for you right now. I'm going to look at my calendar, or I'm going to speak to my manager, or I'm going to add it to a backlog, or I'm going to review what's currently in flight right now and what priorities I'm working on. And then I will slot it into my workload. What's a deadline that you're aiming towards? So then I can keep it in my mind. Something like that. It's kind of like if someone was just like, jump, monkey, jump. And you jump. There's no respect there. So the one thing that I learned was overcoming my people pleasing. And I think I have a book. Yeah. This book really helped. Please Yourself. How to Stop People Pleasing and Transform the Way You Live. It's very good. So I highly recommend actually reading books on topics. I highly recommend reading books on topics that will actually gain you the skills as quickly as possible in order to bolster your perception in a company. Because both ways, I'm going to produce the work. Like, I'm going to do the work. But in one way, I'm not respected. And the other way, I am respected. Which one do you think I'm going to choose? The respect one. And with the respect one, it means being assertive. This one means that I'm people pleasing. Now, assertive to me, and I've taken a course on assertive because in the past, I used to either be angry, like utterly angry, or I used to be completely passive. So if someone told me something I didn't like, I'd either be dead silent and be like, okay, or I would absolutely flip my shit. Learning lesson. But I took a course in order to learn what assertive was. And at the time, I thought, this is some hokey, I just thought this was some hokey BS. Like, honestly, I really did. I was like, you're just gonna communicate what you want, and another person's gonna be like, oh yeah, I accept that. I was like, not in my world. Like, I was literally like that. I was so defensive because I think I was not around people who could emotionally regulate themselves. I'll be real. So growing up in a family where shouting was the way they communicated, angrily shouting was the only communication method in my household. It meant that I learned about being assertive for the first time in my entire life, being at work, like on the job. And it took me a while. And this was whilst I was CMO, actually, and even CEO. I learned quickly. I was like, oh, like I cannot speak to people in a way that I thought was effective. Because for me, effective communication at the time was either anger or passive. So I took a course on how to be assertive, and assertive is just asking for your needs and being clear about what your needs are, what your boundaries are, what your time is like, and making sure that your cup is full. And what I mean by that is making sure that you have the energy. Because there's nothing worse, and I think this is what comes out of people pleasing, which is so sinister, is the fact that you're constantly giving to other people that you're never replenishing your own energy, which means that you burn out. So then it becomes a cycle of burnout, rest, you're up to full energy, like battery-wise. And then you people please and your battery is going low, and then 5% morning is on and then you burn out. So that was the cycle that I was going through. And I recognized, this has to stop. So learning how to be assertive was the key to breaking the people pleasing. And the key for me is the book Self-Compassion by Kristin Neff. I don't know how that book tapped into something that I didn't even know I needed, but it filled a gap that made me and allowed me and gave me permission to show up as myself, which was something that I wasn't really taught to do. I was told to like, oh, be quiet. Oh my God, you're speaking too much. Oh, you're over, you're being too dramatic. Calm down. Whilst my personality has always been big. So the self-compassion piece allowed me to lean into being me. Like me, my glorious self. And then obviously doing improv comedy classes. Well, not obviously, you might not know, but I do improv comedy classes. I perform improv comedy. I've taken up the bass guitar. I sing. I do all of these creative pursuits because they fill my energy up. So then when I come to work, I show up as my best self. And if I show up as my best self, I'm able to give energy whilst also getting my energy from work a little bit, depending on the task that I was in flow in. If there's a task I'm in flow in, it gives me energy. Some depletes, it makes sense. But I was always making sure that my energy was being replenished in my spare time, because then I can bring my best self to work. And also when I'm in work, it allowed me to then say no more often and also say yes, sure. But also it meant that whenever I did say a yes, people were like, oh, Hattie said yes, she will be working on this and that will be done to like the best level, Hattie has got this, because they know that I value my time. And bear in mind, I was not a manager, I'm a individual contributor. So you see that as IC online. So an IC, I was a high level IC working across different products. I owned the SaaS division, and I treated myself as if I was like the CMO, or as if I was like a manager who had people beneath me. I treated my time so valuably, and therefore people treated my time as valuably as I did. So I feel for you if you're a people pleaser, because I've been there and it sucks. Like, I really get it. Like, I really do. And it's so counterintuitive, but it will take a while to get through that, to a point where now I'm on the complete opposite side, where I try to remain compassionate and empathetic, because sometimes I can go a bit too extreme. I'm trying to be more compassionate now. I've flipped completely the opposite way. So building this skill is going to be good for both your personal life and your work life. And I see everything as a holistic view as to how do your personal impact your professional, how does your professional impact your personal, and you are the product we are building, my friend. Like, I am the product I am building. This is why I'm so happy investing money in myself, because I'm like, no one's going to take a skill away from me. You cannot tell me to unlearn how to ride a bike. You cannot tell me to unlearn how to be assertive and to value myself. You can't. It's in here. It's done. Like, I've learned it once and it remains. And if anything, it remains and it gets stronger the more I put the reps in. The more you ride a bike, the more you can be like, oh, I can sit back and not hold the handlebars. It's the more that I get the reps in and how to be assertive and how to communicate, which allows me to be a person that's indispensable, a person who's valued in the company, but also valued in life in general, right? So people pleasing is probably holding you back, because it did hold me back for the longest time. I learned the hard way. I learned on the job, which, if you're like me and you come from a family that maybe was a little bit toxic, maybe was a little bit unhealthy, a little bit too spicy, then it's worth investing in you and taking that time to build up yourself.